calling me the dog. I'm the dog. Hey, Kurt.
You're my good old buddy.
Huh? You better put my collar on.
I got your hair combed good.
Yeah.
On behalf of Stan Johnson, myself, and all the other senior guys that were there back in the day, and you're one of the few guys that still gets it.
Still alive.
These are your entry blanks from the 1969 Rotorama, 47 years ago.
Wow.
With 3 cars.
Unbelievable.
So, we wanted you to have them.
Well, that's awesome.
We love you, man. We love you.
Thank you, Kurt. Well, thanks, Stan, when you see him. 60 El Camino, the 38 Ford, the Cabriolet, and the 32 Ford, Bobby's Roadster. This is really awesome. Really, I can't believe these records are still
That's
still around. Yeah, it is. Rotorama, 69. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm digging it.
All right, so today, my friend Chris told me about this car. It's a guy he knows. His dad has this 44. His dad has this 44 coupe that he built in 1960. It has an Olds in it, and evidently it's like untouched Survivor, and it's in amazing condition. It's crazy because Chris has been telling me about this car for more than a year, and there's these old timers in here talking about this 44 coupe that had an Olds in it and how fast it was back in the day, and I'm pretty sure it's the same car. So we're gonna go see what we can find out about it.
I bought some valve covers from you one time. Some Oldsmobile.
Oh yeah, Jefferson?
Yeah.
Yeah, like a year ago or something.
You wouldn't budge on the price.
Yeah.
What a dick.
Oh man. So that's old paint and everything?
I think we had it painted in 83. Yeah, so I guess that's old paint.
Oh man. So that's all early 60s, huh?
Yep.
Wow. Whoa, this is awesome.
Would you have softened on the price if you knew what that was?
Yeah, probably.
Like I was telling you on the phone,
Mm-hmm.
I really need an extra hand
Oh yeah.
to get these all on and tightened.
Okay. Boy, this car is so great. It's so much better than I was expecting it to be. It's
And hello, sir.
Hi, I'm Bob.
Up
Nice to meet you.
here.
Your car is amazing.
We liked it.
Oh my God.
Bet you had some good times in this thing, huh?
Yeah, like that. Lots of fun.
That's pretty good.
Perfect.
Nailed it.
I have a 32 Roadster that my dad built in the same era, but it was getting work done to it at the same time this was being built in those car barns. The car barns were, it's now the West Dallas Auto Club, which still goes, and the city of West Dallas has it's like a community garage that you can join, and if you're a car buff, you can pay a monthly fee and be part of this club, and you get to use all the tools and the facility. And it started off as the car barns, and my dad was a big part of it. He was the only one who had torches, so everyone wanted to borrow his torches. So they chopped some Merc that my dad can tell you all about it. It's awesome. But they had a dragster that they put together, and he says that he drove it down the alley. Like, I don't know, really cool 50s hot rod stuff.
I bought it from a friend at work, loaned him some money to buy it, and he decided he didn't want it, so I paid him. This was in 59, I believe, 1959. So it was painted in 1960, the first time. And it was painted again in 1985, I believe it is.
And when you bought it, did it already have the Olds engine and stuff?
It did have an Oldsmobile motor in it, yes.
Okay, so it was already hot rodded when you got it.
Yeah.
So 324,
I believe that's what it is, yes. It was out of a 52 Ford, I believe.
and that belonged to Jim Nelson.
That's correct.
Yeah, Jim Nelson's a very old friend of my dad's. I was putting two and two together as I was driving here that I've heard about this car from several different people, and I knew that he was involved in some way. So when you got it, it needed a bunch of work, or what kind of state was it in?
Yeah, it needed a lot of body work, paint. The fenders were cut up a little bit and the running boards were gone. And I changed the running gear on it. I put a different transmission and rear end in it.
And what's that?
Cad LaSalle transmission and 1950 Olds, I believe, rear end.
This is so awesome. That car is great. It's like, that's like Wisconsin hot rodding at its best right there.
Not sticking anymore.
So what are your earliest memories of this car?
Pushing it a lot of places because it wasn't running, it would fall apart, you know. And in my job when there was a car show, to put it on the hoist, and I took all the goody stuff off underneath, and I had to paint the Firestone on the tires in white. And I wasn't shaky then.
What are your fond memories of this car?
Going back and forth to Grandma and Grandpa's house on Sundays, stuff like that.
Did you ever take it out when your dad wasn't around?
Nope. Nope. I finally drove it, was it 2 years ago for the first time?
Probably.
For the 50th reunion of the Outlaws is
Okay.
probably the first time I drove it.
The Outlaws Car Club, what was that about?
Yeah, that was some of the guys got together and they wanted to get a car club started, so somebody picks out Outlaw's name, so everybody went along with that.
My dad had a custom, when he was in high school, he built a 50 Ford convertible. He talks about this full custom 50 Ford that got smashed, but this car, it had the Buick side trim. My dad talks about this car all the time because this car got wrecked and it was chopped with a Carson top. And the guy who bought my dad's car ended up with the interior out of this car. My dad's gonna flip out when he sees this picture. Crazy 34.3 window that had these marker lights in the fenders, and it was in Hot Rod magazine. And this car, the guy would come over and visit my uncle when he was building the Roadster. This was like the only hot rod my uncle knew about.
Crazy. Spooks.
Yep. And
Yeah,
he
that sounds familiar.
yeah, and he was like the Fonz. He had all these different cars that ruled, and he drove this car to LA to join the LA Roadsters, and he ended up getting killed out there sometime in a car accident.
Whoa.
I think the kingpin broke or something.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But
In that
my
car?
dad used to cruise around in this car when he was like 15, because Spooks was like the older cool guy.
Right.
Was it a hobby or was it your main like what?
No, it was a extra car, hobby car, more or less. Yeah, in the 50s and 60s, I went to quite a few shows.
Did you do the full angel hair?
Yeah, right.
Got it in those days.
We took it out for the 50th anniversary, and it died, and we had to push it again. So, same story 50 years later.
Never changes.
Never changes.
Nope.
And when Randy was about 10, him and Dad were going to go out looking for cool chicks. So we had the opera seats in the back, that like this. So I sat back there, nobody could see me. So we went looking for cool chicks.
Did you find any?
No! If they did, they wouldn't know what to do anyway.
Then it was on a float.
Yes, it was
neat.
on West Dallas Christmas parade one year. Yeah.
God, it had that cool pinstriping around the.
I want that back.
Yeah. So are any of those guys still have their cars in that club?
Very few.
Yeah.
I think this is probably the oldest one.
Like that T-Bucket or any of those other cars. He doesn't know where any of those, yeah. So did you drive it a lot? How many miles do you think you put on it?
No, not very many.
Not very many. You got it, and you painted it, and you used it throughout the 60s, showed it a lot, and then you kind of stopped using it, or it went into storage a little bit, or...
Yeah, I think so. Guess I lost interest in it a little bit.
And then Randy has some interest in it.
I do.
That's awesome. So what's your plan? Just to kind of refine it?
Yeah, to keep it, pretty much as it is. But just keep it, maintained.
Yeah, it's amazing that, just the one repaint pretty much, it's pretty much intact as you built it, and it's pretty special.
Well, it's always been garage, so.
Yeah.
Put on jacks in the winter and covered up with a bunch of blankets and stuff. And mothballs underneath it. We've really never had any mice in it.
Nope.
Knock on wood.
So I just want to say thanks for letting us see this. I mean, it's amazing to see, and not very many people have seen it, evidently, so.
They've heard about it, but they haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's kind of a legend. So anyway, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And it's really an honor to see it. It really is. I mean, I think maybe you don't realize what you have. It's a very, very special car. So if there's anything I can do to help you guys get it out there a little bit.
Well, you already helped us on the Lincoln.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just have a passion for this stuff. So it's just great to see. So thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
I don't know, Connor likes to play pranks on him.
Well, some giant decided it'd be a nice idea to put my wheels up in the tree. Christ. I hate you guys. This is why I can't have nice things.
Better get some rocks, Randy.
Who put them up there? You did? You're getting them down. I don't do heights and haircuts.
Randy is a guy who helps us out sometimes. He interned here at the shop for a while, and he's part of our family. But every once in a while he comes by and we can't help but make fun of him. Every spring, we head back to Austin, Texas for the Lone Star Roundup. It's always great to meet up with old friends. The Lone Star Roundup brings out people from all over the world, and it's one of my favorite shows. I was going to the Lone Star Roundup since way before I even moved to Texas, and it's a big reason why I moved there. This year we brought out the finished Sosa Coupe, and we're so excited for our friends to see it and just to get caught up with everybody. The show is amazing. The people who run it, the Continentals, everyone involved. It's first class all the way. And it started off as kind of a small party where everyone knew each other, and now it's turned into a giant show, and it still has a small feel. So it's really special. So we're walking around the show, and we just heard that the Tweety Bird 32 Roadster is here. And it is a legendary hot rod from Texas. And it's crazy because it's here, and I really want to see it. I guess the guy, Jim, who's the original owner, is here with it. My name's Bob.
I'm Jim Govro.
It's really nice to meet you. I spent a lot of time here in Austin, and I heard about your car back in the day. It was like the only hot rod in Austin or whatever, and I just am curious to know what it was like when you first built it, what inspired you to build it, how did you come up with this? I mean, because it's a pretty special car.
From the time I was in junior high school, all I did when I was supposed to be studying in class was drawing pictures of roadsters. Never a coupe, it's always roadsters. When I got into high school, I got a chance to buy a 29A, just a body and a frame, and I wanted a 32 frame, and in the process of looking for that, a friend of mine found this body and this frame, and that's all there was to it. And I had no money, and it was $20, and he ended up buying it for me and said, "You can just pay me when you get the money." So I paid him $5, and then another $5 and another $5. And when I got to 15, he said, "That's it, you don't owe me anymore." He bought a 39 Ford Coupe Standard with a 24 stud engine and with heads and manifold and everything on it. So he wanted to put his engine in my car to see how it ran. After a couple of months, I said, "We need to change engines back." He said, "No, just keep it." So he gave me the engine. He bought the car for me. Like I said, I had no money. I was just a kid in high school and working at my dad's shop after school and make sometimes $0 for a week's work, sometimes $2 or $3.
So money was an issue, but
big issue,
and it still is. But how did you learn? Where did you learn? How did you figure this out? I mean, you couldn't just go to the hot rod shop and talk to
No, there
them.
wasn't any of those things back in those days. But I knew what a hot rod was supposed to look like from magazines, from Hot Rod magazine. Hot rod was just about all there was in '51. And so the thing looked horrible. I mean, it looked like some of those pictures down here where I was racing it. And wrong model front end, the wheel set too far back, and the axle was behind the spring. And so the grill was sticking too far forward. Everything was wrong. And it was beat up, had a big bulge on the right rear quarter where somebody had hammered it out and didn't know any more about body work than me. But it got it registered and started driving it and started racing at the same time on the street and Kerrville and wherever someone would have some races. We used to put on races down at New Braunfels.
So was there a lot of other hot rods around, or a couple guys?
No, there was quite a few.
Oh, was there?
Yeah, there was quite a few.
You decided to channel it and leave the full fenders, which was...
No, I didn't have fenders.
You didn't, not at first?
No.
Okay.
I just decided to channel it because that was, most of the cars were channeled. I mean, a lot of the cars were channeled back then, not all of them. And then a friend of mine was building a In fact, I didn't even know him. He was a brother of a friend of mine. He was building a 32 coupe, and he had this set of fenders, and he didn't want them. He gave them to me, and there was one crack in one fender, and they were just perfect.
Wow.
For free.
When did you put the Cadillac in?
Probably in 50, I can't remember for sure, probably 56 I put the Cadillac in, and 55 or 56. And I had some nice stuff on the engine. I mean, the valve train was fixed up. I didn't have it souped up or anything other than the valve train and 4 carburetors and valve covers and stuff to make it look spiffy.
And the car looked like this already when it had the Caddy in it? The fenders and everything?
Yeah, actually it was painted maroon at that time. It was more fun to drive with the Cadillac in it.
Yeah.
So I got to go back with the Cadillac, even though it's a lot more expensive. Right after that I had it painted and I had the upholstery done.
Who did the upholstery?
Vernon McKean.
That's what I thought. He's a special guy.
Yeah, Vernon was at the party we had a party for the car after we got it back, and Vernon was there. He's 84 years old, still building hot rods, still doing upholstery work.
He's the greatest upholsterer ever.
Yeah,
he really is.
And in 1956, I guess I had it painted yellow.
Okay.
Boots Fritchoff painted it. He was pretty important body man around here.
Yeah, I know that name.
I sold it in 1962 when my first daughter was born in order to get her home out of the hospital and my wife. And so that was it. That was the end of hot rodding for me.
So now you're going to do it all again, huh?
Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, we're hoping to do it again. And I wanted to build the car myself. And Jimmy knows how slow I am, and my health has gotten kind of bad. And so Jimmy put the car yesterday on GoFundMe.
Oh yeah.
So he's trying to get $5 donations for the building of the car, so he can have someone else build it, because he doesn't figure I'm going to live long enough to drive it again.
Oh man. Well, it's just amazing. I've known about this car for a long time. I saw it in a garage like 8 years ago, and I have such a passion for old hot rods, and it's so special to meet the guy who built it, and now you have it back. So I wish there was a way I could help more, but anyway, I just wanted to wish you luck with it, and I can't wait to see it unfold. Like it's special.
After my dad passed away, Jim married my mom, and he's an awesome, great role model for me. And he wanted to get back into hot rodding, and so he bought a 32 truck. And with the 32 truck came a whole bunch of unrelated parts, and so we took off to the first swap meet, which was in Boerne, Texas. The guy came by and bought a shifter for a Model A from me. And as he was walking away from me, he pulls out his cell phone and says, "Hey, we need to move the Model A out of the garage and Tweety." My heart nearly stopped when that happened, and I rushed over and tapped him on the shoulder, and I said, "Tweety happen to be a yellow 32? And he said, "Well, yes it is." I said, "You come over and talk to my stepdad. I think he built the car." And the guy says, "No, I don't think he did, but I'll come over and talk to your stepdad." So he came back over, and Jim reached under the seat of his pickup and had a 1958 August edition of Hot Rod magazine. He opens it up and shows the man, and the man says, "I own your car." We had a 54 MG when we were kids with my dad, and Jim happened to own one of those that he bought as an investment. And my mom really wanted to drive in that car like she did when she was married to my dad before he passed away. So Jim came to me at church one day and said, "You've been talking to your mom about Tweety." And I said, "Yeah, I have. I always talk about Tweety." And he says, "Well, she wants me to sell the MG and try to buy Tweety back." And he goes, "I'm going to call Andy as soon as I get home from church and see if I can make a deal with him." I came in over at my mom's house, and I saw Jim on the phone, and as soon as I saw him on the phone, he turned to me and gave me the thumbs up. And my heart once again leaped and nearly stopped, and I said, "Awesome, we're going to get the car back." Well, Andy's a really good guy, and he wouldn't sell the car back to anybody else. The day that we got paid for the MG, the next day we went down to pick Tweety up. It just happened to be 50 years to the month later. Jim sold it in April of 1962, and we bought it back in April of 2012. Again, my heart skipped a beat, and I thought of what an awesome guy Andy Rafferty was. to actually sell one of his dreams, because he knew the car ever since he was a kid, and he knew how awesome it would be for Jim, my stepdad, to have that car back.
This is a 1933 Ford sedan that I found literally less than 2 miles away from the shop. So, you know, again, with survivors, you're always looking for old hot rods and old cool parts, and well, they might be like in your backyard, you know. So several years ago, I heard, before I went to Texas, I mean years ago, just driving my Roadster around, someone said, oh, there's a 32 Ford in Dousman, and Dousman's the next town down, and it's in a chicken coop or a barn or a garage. And I drove down every road, I looked everywhere for this car, never found it, asked everyone I could talk to about it, never heard anything about it, but I still believe it's there. So moved back from Texas, still thinking, man, like, wow, maybe that 5-window's out there somewhere. So shortly after we got back set up, all the old timers started coming in and talking, telling stories or whatever. And one guy came in, he's like, oh, you know, there's this 33 Ford. It was the car to beat on Wisconsin Avenue back in the 60s. Like, people would come all over and race it. It was so fast, no one could beat it, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, and it's right up the street. You should talk to the guy. And he gives me his number. So I call and we go over there, and I was like, oh my God. We walk in the garage. It was sitting there with, like, it had no motor. The frame was on the ground, the front end was sitting on it, and all this stuff piled on it. So all you could see was that there's this old red hot rod, and you couldn't see any of the details of anything. So then we started talking about it, and he got some old pictures out, and it was just so good. So of course I asked him if it was for sale. He was like, I don't know, and he kind of wanted more than I could pay. But, you know, I kept tabs on it. So finally I was able to make a deal a year or two later, and it was really cool because we went over there, and I was still expecting it to be in the state where I saw it, you know, like all apart. I thought we were going to have to put it together, and then the plan was to tow bar it with the panel. So we go over there with a bunch of tools, and he had already put it all together for us. So all of a sudden we get there, and it's rolling, and it's ready to go, and it was kind of his way of like saying goodbye.
Early 60s. Yeah. Originally started, sure.
And then
absolutely.
Your brother bought it, or he was helping a guy build it, and then bought it from him, probably?
Apparently, yeah. The best as I understand from him. And I think he'd been involved in it for a good year or so before I even saw it the first time in the trailer.
Cliff's brother, Frankie, got it, put a 348 with a tri-power on it, and started, like, you know, cruising and racing, and they wanted to go faster and faster. And they found a police interceptor 409. They put that in. I guess it was just an animal, you know. They raced all over the Midwest with it.
They got a hold of a 409 and put the 409 in it, and it ran, I think, 3 409s in it that got destroyed.
Wow. And it was a pretty crazy, lots of street racing in this car, huh?
Oh, absolutely. This thing had a reputation around here. We had guys from Detroit, we had guys from Chi-Town coming up, challenging them all the time, constantly.
Wow.
Constantly.
The guy, Cliff, I got it from, he went in the service, went away, Well, he was gone. His brother took apart the car, had plans for it that never came about, and that's about it. So that was about 1964. So this thing was kind of sitting in their parents' garage since then. The older brother, Frankie, passed away, and his mom wanted it out of there, so Cliff got it and put it in his garage, and that's, 20 some years ago or more. So it's been off the road since the mid-60s. Basically putting all the right stuff on it to make it look like it had never been taken apart in the 60s and it just was a full survivor. So I want to really try to keep it true to itself and preserve it as a survivor, because it really is. I mean, it's basically complete minus the engine and some little detail stuff. Next time on Midwest Speed and Power, we tackle some final pieces on the 33 sedan and we get it ready for an indoor show. Bob Metzenheim stops by with his old 34 coupe, and a last-minute deal right before the show, we find this hot rod that was in a basement for more than 60 years. It's crazy, you're not even going to believe it. All this on Midwest Speed and Power.